Have you ever instantly disliked someone, only for everyone else to realize you were right 6 months later? Reading minds isn't magic, it's high-level pattern recognition. But seeing through everyone's fake behavior comes with a heavy price: absolute, crushing exhaustion. Here is why you instinctively hide. You're sitting in a crowded room. People are talking, laughing, exchanging pleasantries. To the average observer, it is just a normal, vibrant evening. But to you, it feels like watching a badly written play where everyone forgot their lines, so they just started improvising with cliches. You hear the microscopic shift in tone when someone is setting up a lie. You notice the subtle tightening around a co-worker's eyes when they deliver a compliment that is dripping with concealed envy. You don't just hear what people are saying, you hear exactly what they are desperately trying to hide. Society operates on an unspoken social script. How are you? I'm fine, thanks. We should catch up soon. Definitely. None of it is real. It is a synchronized performance. Most people navigate this performance blindly, accepting the words at face value. They enjoy the illusion, but your brain refuses to cooperate. Your brain treats every interaction like a raw data set, instantly scanning for inconsistencies between a person's body language, their vocal pitch, and their past behavior. Consider your workplace or a circle of acquaintances. Someone walks in and starts dominating the conversation with a tragic story. While others offer immediate sympathy, your brain instinctively correlates this behavior with the 3 other times this exact person played the victim right before asking for a massive favor. You don't just see the tears, you see the setup, the execution, and the inevitable demand. You see the machinery behind the mask. The tragedy of this superpower is that it cannot be turned off. You cannot unsee the strings once you have noticed the puppet. Every forced laugh, every backhanded compliment, every subtle manipulation, disguised as genuine concern, it all registers in your mind with deafening clarity. You didn't ask for this ability. You don't walk into a room wanting to judge people. In fact, most of the time, you genuinely wish you could be blissfully ignorant. You wish you could just laugh at the mediocre joke and accept the fake smile without your internal alarm bells going off. It is incredibly isolating to be the only person in the room who realizes the emperor is naked, especially when everyone else is busy complimenting his invisible tailor. When you can predict the exact trajectory of a conversation before the second sentence is even finished, participating in it feels like an absurd waste of oxygen. You know who is about to play the victim. You know who is steering the conversation to stroke their own ego. You know who is secretly competing with you while pretending to be your closest friend. People often mistake your quietness for shyness, or worse, arrogance. They whisper that you think you're better than everyone else, but they don't understand that your silence isn't an insult, it is a shield. You aren't lacking social skills. You simply reached a point where you refuse to participate in a theatrical production you never auditioned for. You aren't withdrawing from people, you are withdrawing from the performance. And this phenomenon, this quiet retreat, isn't just a quirk of your personality. It is a direct result of how your neurological wiring processes the world. Let us step away from the emotional poetry for a moment and look at the cold, hard biological hardware. When you tell people you're exhausted by social interactions, they usually hand you a self-help book on how to be a better extrovert. They think your social battery is just exceptionally small. They're entirely wrong. Your battery is fine. Your processor is simply running 10 heavy background applications that theirs isn't. Neuroscience points us to a specific area of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the command center for complex cognitive behavior, decision-making, and crucially, pattern recognition. In highly sensitive individuals, this region doesn't just casually listen to a conversation, it obsessively cross-references it. While a normal brain is easily processing the words, I am so happy for you. Your hyper-connected brain is simultaneously processing the speaker's micro-expressions, the slight tension in their jaw, their historical track record of passive-aggressive behavior, and the statistical probability that they are secretly hoping you fail. This is not paranoia. It is a biological hypersensitivity to environmental data. You are essentially a human supercomputer forced to run a basic calculator app. Quite frankly, it is insulting to your hardware, and here is where the dark humor of human biology comes into play. For the average person, engaging in trivial small talk triggers a mild release of dopamine. They talk about the weather, they gossip about a co-worker, and their brain rewards them with a little hit of happy chemicals. For you, the exact opposite happens. Because your brain is working overtime to decode the endless layers of deception and predictability in these interactions, it requires an immense amount of glucose and cognitive energy. When you're forced to endure an hour of fake corporate mingling or shallow party banter, your brain doesn't release dopamine, it releases cortisol, the stress hormone. To your central nervous system, a room full of people wearing social masks is not a fun Friday night. It is a high-threat environment demanding constant analytical vigilance. You are not just sitting there sipping a drink. Biologically speaking, you are solving a complex multi-dimensional puzzle in real time, only to realize the puzzle is incredibly boring and completely useless. No wonder you desperately want to go home and stare at a blank ceiling. This brings us to the actual act of disappearing. When you suddenly go quiet in a group chat, decline a weekend invitation, or completely ghost a social circle, society labels you as rude, avoidant, or depressed. But from a neurobiological standpoint, you are executing a critical system override. Your brain is simply firing an emergency protocol. Warning, cognitive overload, shutting down non-essential social ports to preserve structural integrity. Your silence is not a symptom of a psychological illness. It is a highly evolved biological defense mechanism. It is designed to protect a ridiculously powerful data processing machine from overheating. You don't hide because you're weak, and you certainly don't hide because you're afraid of people. You hide because you're trying to prevent a catastrophic mental crash caused by the sheer, deafening volume of the fake noise around you. Welcome to the exhausting, full-time job of being normal. Psychologists call it masking. For you, it is a daily theatrical performance where you are completely uncredited and severely underpaid. Masking is the act of artificially lowering your cognitive resolution so that other people feel comfortable around you. It is forcing a look of genuine surprise when a friend reveals a secret you figured out 3 months ago. It is laughing at a painfully predictable joke just so you don't ruin the atmosphere. It is nodding sympathetically while someone complains about a toxic relationship that you know they are actively, repeatedly choosing to stay in. Most people socialize to relax. You socialize while constantly managing everyone else's fragile egos, carefully curating your reactions so you don't accidentally reveal how much you actually see. But there is a breaking point, often triggered by what we can call the shattered glass effect. Imagine you are at a gathering. An acquaintance compliments your recent success. The words are entirely supportive, but you instantly catch the subtle micro-expression of contempt, the slight change in vocal pitch, the forced smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes. The glass shatters. You just read the room, and the room is full of quiet resentment. Once you see the manipulation disguised as care, or the bitter jealousy wrapped in a polite congratulation, you simply cannot unsee it. You are now trapped in an agonizing position. You have two choices: call it out and be labeled as crazy, dramatic, or paranoid, or smile back, swallow the truth, and play along. Most of the time, you choose to play along because it requires slightly less immediate conflict. But playing along is exactly what slowly drains your soul. You are essentially lying to yourself to protect the feelings of people who are currently lying to you. It is a bizarre, unspoken agreement of mutual deception. And because your brain processes these interpersonal dynamics so vividly, pretending that everything is perfectly fine takes an astronomical toll on your central nervous system. Eventually, you hit the wall. The breaking point doesn't usually happen with a massive argument or a dramatic exit. It happens in a quiet moment of absolute clarity. You look around at the carefully constructed fake personas, the endless gossip loops, and the exhausting charade of small talk, and your brain simply asks a devastatingly logical question. Why am I working this hard to please people who don't even understand themselves? That is the exact moment you stop trying. You stop replying to the group chats that drain your energy. You stop attending events out of pure social obligation. You let the awkward silences happen instead of rushing to fill them with meaningless words. People might call you distant. They might assume you have grown cold or arrogant. Let them. What they perceive as you pushing them away is actually you finally pulling yourself together. You realize that blending in was costing you your sanity. And ultimately, losing a few casual, superficial friends is a remarkably cheap price to pay for the permanent silence of your own mind. So far, we have framed your isolation as a brilliant tactical retreat, a neurobiological necessity to protect your energy. And while that is entirely true, it is time to address the invisible trap. It is time to look at the dark side of your high-level pattern recognition. Because if you're not careful, the very mechanism that protects you will eventually imprison you. When your brain is hyper-tuned to detect lies, manipulation, and hidden agendas, it naturally develops a severe negativity bias. You become a psychological detective who can never clock out of their shift. You start searching for the catch in every single interaction. Someone offers you a genuine, well-meaning compliment, and instead of just saying thank you, your brain immediately runs a background check on their motives. Are they buttering me up? Do they need a favor? What is their angle? This is the moment your gift turns against you. It stops being pattern recognition and quietly bleeds into clinical paranoia. You become so obsessed with reading between the lines that you completely forget how to just read the text. This hypervigilance leads to a very specific, very dangerous mutation of the ego: silent arrogance. Because you can see the social puppet strings that everyone else seems completely blind to, it becomes dangerously easy to conclude that everyone around you is simply shallow or foolish. You sit in the corner, observing people enjoying their trivial small talk, and you feel a quiet sense of superiority. You think, they are so superficial, I am so deep. But let us be brutally honest for a second. Is your depth actually making you happy, or is it just making you incredibly cynical? The uncomfortable truth is that not everyone is acting with malicious intent. Yes, people wear masks. Yes, society is a performance. But most of the time, people aren't performing to manipulate you. They are performing because they are just as scared, insecure, and exhausted as you are. They use small talk as a life raft to keep from drowning in their own social anxiety. When you judge them for not being authentic, you are holding them to a standard of absolute transparency that even you do not possess. After all, you are the one hiding from them, aren't you? If you let this superiority complex run unchecked, you cross a critical threshold. You stop retreating to recharge, and you start retreating out of absolute contempt for humanity. You stop giving people the grace to be flawed, awkward, and messy. You begin predicting how a friendship or a relationship will fail, and then you subconsciously sabotage it just to prove your prediction right. You preemptively reject the world before it has a chance to disappoint you again. This is the ultimate tragedy of the unhealed mind reader. You successfully protect yourself from fake friends, toxic environments, and meaningless drama. But in doing so, you build a fortress so cold and impenetrable that absolutely no one can get in. Not even the rare few who actually mean well. You haven't protected your peace. You have just heavily fortified your loneliness. Let us be absolutely clear about something. There is a massive psychological difference between cowardly ghosting and a strategic retreat. Society loves to blur the lines between the two because society is terrified of people it cannot control. Ghosting is an act of avoidance driven by a fear of accountability. It is what people do when they lack the emotional maturity to say goodbye. But what you are doing, this intentional, quiet withdrawal, is not running away. It is a strategic disappearance. It is a calculated neurobiological necessity. Welcome to monk mode. When you possess high-level pattern recognition, you do not just see the invisible motives behind people's actions. You see the invisible price tag attached to every interaction. You begin to understand the ultimate law of human economics. Your attention is your most valuable currency, and most people are incredibly bad investments. For the average person, a Friday night spent listening to a group of acquaintances gossip is just a way to pass the time. But for you, the calculation is radically different. Your brain computes the opportunity cost. You realize that dedicating 3 hours of your cognitive bandwidth to playing free therapist for someone who actively enjoys being miserable is not just exhausting, it is theft. Every ounce of energy you spend decoding their fake smiles and navigating their fragile egos is energy stolen directly from your own future, your own goals, and your own peace of mind. Strategic disappearance is the moment you finally close your psychological bank account to emotional vampires. You stop seeing your withdrawal as a failure to socialize, and you start treating it as the ultimate competitive advantage. While everyone else is broadcasting their mediocre achievements and exhausting themselves in the endless pursuit of external validation, you go dark. You take that massive, hyper-analytical computing power, the same processor that used to waste its time figuring out if your coworker was secretly jealous, and you redirect it entirely toward your own evolution. This period of silence is where empires are built. In the absence of social noise, you do not have to mask your intelligence. You do not have to lower your resolution to make others comfortable. You can finally think at your actual speed. You read, you build, you heal, and you plan, entirely undetected by a world that is too distracted by its own performance to notice your absence. But this does not mean you're condemned to walk the earth completely alone. In fact, this is where your curse transforms into your greatest weapon. You see, pattern recognition is not just a tool for detecting lies. It is an impeccably accurate radar for detecting authenticity. Once you stop forcing yourself to tolerate the 99% of people who are wearing masks, you clear the space to recognize the rare 1% who are not. When you meet someone whose words perfectly align with their micro-expressions, whose actions match their promises, and who possesses the same quiet depth that you do, your brain instantly recognizes the anomaly. It is a neurological sigh of relief. These are the people you let into your inner circle. Your social circle stops being a chaotic public lobby and becomes a heavily fortified, highly exclusive sanctuary. Ultimately, walking away from the noise is the most profound act of self-respect you can commit. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop feeling guilty for leaving unread messages from people who only reach out when they need an audience. You realize that to the outside world, it looks exactly like you vanished without a trace. But the truth is far more powerful. You are not disappearing from everyone. You are just finally reappearing for yourself. Let us look at the grand scheme of things for a moment. Human life is absurdly short. You get roughly 4,000 weeks on this planet. Spending even one of those weeks pretending to be fascinated by someone's fake corporate persona or their superficial drama is not just exhausting, it is a tragedy. Society desperately wants you to believe that isolation is a symptom of failure. They want you to think that if you are not constantly surrounded by people, constantly networking, constantly vibrating with social energy, you are somehow losing the game. But what if the game itself is rigged? What if winning a popularity contest among people who are entirely terrified of their own authenticity is actually the biggest loss of all? If you're watching this video right now, perhaps sitting alone in a quiet room, feeling that lingering guilt because you haven't replied to a message in 3 days. I want you to take a deep breath. You are not broken, you are not antisocial, and you are certainly not missing out on anything important. You have simply evolved past the need for shallow validation. Your capacity to read minds, to see through the social masks, and to predict the agonizingly boring loops of human behavior is not a curse. Not if you learn how to use it correctly. It is a biological filter. Let the world think you disappeared. Let them whisper that you fell off the map, or that you grew too arrogant for your own good. While they are busy performing for an audience of strangers, you are finally building a life that doesn't require an intermission. If you have the exhausting power to read the minds of everyone in the room, it is time to step out of the room and finally start listening to your own. Your silence is not a weakness. It is the undeniable sound of you outgrowing your surroundings. If this video felt like someone finally put your exact, unspoken thoughts into words, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We dissect the deep, often uncomfortable truths of human psychology and behavioral science on this channel, and you're going to want to be here for what we uncover next. And before you disappear again, drop a comment below. Tell me, what is the most obvious fake behavior that instantly makes you want to walk away from a conversation? Let's talk about it. You might be surprised by how many people here completely understand you. Until next time, protect your peace and keep your silence strategic.